Two. Welcome to our second live stream of the evening. My name's Ivonne, and today we are working on block number 7 of the scrap challenge. So I hope that you are keeping up with this one. This one's not too bad. It's just one block a week. Let me show you where we are. All right, everybody, say hello to each other. Let me know if you can hear me. All right, so let me share my desktop, and this is where we should be. You are on www.jollyrollclub.com. The tab is called Scrap Challenge 2026, and we're making lots and lots of blocks. All right, so the very first video we had was for this one. It's called Birds in the Air. Then we had this second block, and as you saw it, the second block was called the Mosaic block. Then we had this one, which is like a star block, but it's called X marks the spot because it's an X in the middle. Then we had this one, which is called Rosy Posy. And then we had this one, which is just like a chevron. This one is called Crosswalk. So if you've been working on this, this is what it looks like. And today we're going to be working on the hourglass block. And so this is what it looks like. It just looks like an hourglass. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. For this one, you're going to need 16 half square triangles. So let me show you what that looks like. So for all of these, let me just show you. This is number 1. Let me see which one's number 1. Here it is. There's my Birds in the Air, is block 1. You can put this one in any direction that you want. I just lay it out this way. There's Crosswalk, because it looks like little crosswalks. This is my X, which actually looks like a star. This one's Rosy Posy. This one is called Zigzag, but it just looks like a chevron. If you wanted to make an entire quilt like this, that would be fun. And then, of course, this one is the one we made last week, which was looks like this. This would be a fun block as a filler block because you could do like one color here and one color here. All right, for today's block, I'm going to need 16 half square triangles, and I made an entire little basket full of those, so I just picked 16. And then I'm going to lay these out in that pattern. You're going to see some blocks that look like this, so I'm going to start with one at the top. Let me see. And this one's going to go this way. So I'm going to have some units that go, this is the basic unit, so I'm going to have some going this way and some going the other way. So let me put the next one the other way. And let me stick something there like that. And so this is going to go like this and like this. It kind of looks like the one we made last week, the chevron, but it looks a little bit like zigzag, but it's a little bit different. And so we're going to have this one going here, and so that it's going to go downward. So it's going to go like this, and like this. I'm going to take this one, and now it's going to go the opposite direction, just like that. And so I'm going to take, and it looks like a vertical streak of lightning. How many of you guys are just using all of your scraps like I am? I have tons of scraps. And remember, for those of you who are just joining us, for all of these units, I stitched 1/4 inch on either side of my strips. And then I used a strip tuber method where you can use either a ruler or a little companion angle, like the miniature companion angle, to cut those. All right, so that's this part. Now I need to do the same thing, but going the opposite direction for this hourglass. So let's try. Let's see. Let's try this way. There you go. Trying not to sneeze. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction. Let me try a yellow on there. Maybe I want a different color. Like this. And then I'll do a yellow. I'll do an orangey orange. Maybe a coral. Like this. And then I will have to do vertical. Let me try a green. I don't have that many greens in this area. Let me try a green this direction, and then maybe a purple this direction. And so this is the basic block. The block is just going to go like this. And just like the other ones, you're going to join these in 4 patches. And the reason you do that is because it makes it easier to match all this stuff up. So I always lay out my block, and then I always use a ton of pins for this because what I don't want to do is sew on the wrong side. And so I have all my pins, and then I just flip this over just like this. And then I sew one segment first. I pin the side that I'm going to sew on so that I don't get my angles confused, because this one is easy enough to do. And then I'll go over to the machine and stitch all the way down one side, leaving them all connected. So I leave all of these connected, and then I'm going to sew them like this. This one goes on top like this, and it's called stringing the block. I'll do the same on this side. I'm going to flip it down, flip it down. And if you notice, all of my backgrounds are different colors. I'm just kind of using whatever I have in my scrap bins for this particular project. Are you guys doing a controlled colorway, or are you just kind of winging it and using all your scraps? I have a bunch of leftover jelly roll bits. So sometimes I have a jelly roll where 1 or 2 colors are just kind of odd, and I keep saving them, especially my batiks. And then over time I get these little bins that are just too full. And then once I get a full bin full of batiks, then I usually make a scrap quilt. So my little bin that I'm using today kind of looks like this. These are all my odds and ends, and so these are all my weird little bits. And so that's what I have, and I'm going to keep using these until they're gone. And that's what I've been doing all of these with. I think this is going to be a really cute quilt. I think I like this one. All right. Now that I have this, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lay them starting from the top, and then they go in order vertically. All right, so I have 2 stacks. This is the right and this is the left. And I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to sew them all at once. And so this is my favorite way of doing this, is literally just sew the entire thing. I did not have a leader and ender, and that's fine. And then I'm just going to start with 1 stack. And I set it off to the side. And I pull these as I go, making sure the edges are lined up. I do have a 1/4 inch foot because it makes life easier if you have a 1/4 inch foot. And then I just get started. This foot is a scant 1/4 inch foot. Your sewing machine may have something that's slightly different, but if you use a scant 1/4 inch foot, then you end up with an 8.5 inch block. And just like that. This is the fastest way to do it, is just literally line them all up in order from top to bottom and bring them over to the machine like this. But use whatever you have in your sewing room for this particular project, and it's going to look beautiful regardless. Next, I'm going to do my second one. Same thing. I'm going to stop and I'm going to snip this first row and move it out of my way so I don't get it confused. But you're going to see how quickly this one goes together by using this method. And this is called the stringing method. And this is where you just take your block and you leave all of the pieces in the order that you want to assemble them. If you notice, I'm not pushing or pulling as I'm going through. I'm letting my feed dogs do all the work. All right. And I'm going to go the next one. And I never even break my thread. I just keep on going. And if I have a little bit of thread or a little bit of something, then I can run it through there as a leader or an ender. All right, I'm done with that section. Let me show you what I have. All right, so now I have this, and we're going to be talking about those bulky ends and all the other problems that these little blocks might cause you. All right, so we're going to open these, and we're going to go left and right, left and right. And so this one, I'm going to take, and I'm going to go right. And if you notice, I am pushing it that way. And then this way, this one, I'm going to push left. So I'm pushing the opposite direction. The reason I'm doing that is so that I can swirl this seam, and that helps with all of the bulky stuff. And so now I'm going to take, and I'm going to snip this right here. I'm going to leave this over here on my thing, and I'm going to put these together. If you notice, I have this little thread here. When I sew this, those seams will nest just like that, and that reduces the bulkiness, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Because I'm going to swirl that seam, so let me show you what that looks like really quick. And then I just come over here. I line up those edges, I nest the seams. And I make sure that those seams go left and right like they're supposed to. And I come to the end of my row, making sure if you have a little purple thing that you're holding it down because it just makes it easier. Don't stick your finger in there because you're going to be really sad if you sew through your finger. I've cut my nail, cut through all the way through my nail with my rotary cutter before, and that is no fun. All right, so let me show you how to get rid of some of that bulk that some of you guys are talking about. So if you notice, I now have this edge all swirled up, and it can be really bulky here. And so what I do is I take and I bring these opposite directions, just like this, and I make like a little four patch. And so I kind of open it right there. My little purple thing, I just kind of dig in there, and I put those seams one direction and another direction. And so what I'm going to do is this seam is going to go open just in the middle, and I'm going to smush it, and then I'm going to press it with my iron. So I'm going to take and this one will go down and this one will go up. And by doing that, by opening that up, that reduces the bulk. And then when you flip it over and you feel it, there's no bulk in there. And like I said, this one goes down, over, up, and around. And so it's called swirling the seam. And once I have it where I want it, just lay it like that. Then I'm going to press it from the front because that just creates less problems for me. Look at that. And if you put the seams on the woolly side of your mat and you press from the top, you get extremely flat blocks. You can also lay a piece of wood on there and block that, but that creates really flat blocks. You can always take a clapper on that seam And look what that does. That seam is now swirled and there's no bulk. When I take and I go like this, there's not a big lump right there. Am I making sense? And you're going to do that 4 times. This one is going to the left, so that means this one now goes to the right. And by doing it like this, and this one goes the opposite direction, on my woolly mat with my nails like this, you can also do it with your little purple thing. You're just kind of pushing that seam so that there's not a ripple in there or a tuck. And then I'm just going to lay this on top. And that 1/4 inch right there is my seam allowance. The same with this one. That 1/4 inch is my seam allowance. If you notice, this has matched perfectly, and so did this one. This one has like a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit less. So hopefully that point won't get chopped. But you should see a 1/4 inch here, here, and here. So before you sew it, you'll see that 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, and 1/4 inch. A lot of new quilters think that they've done something wrong. You have not done anything wrong. Just like that. Push that together. You can pin it if you want to. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to snip. And I'm going to string this up. Now, this is going upward, which is fine. So this one is going that direction, so I want this top one to mirror that. This one's going to go that direction. So I'm going to lay it on this side and flip over my seam and take my fingernail to it and then push it down. And I'm leaving that string in between, and that keeps them together. Just like that. And I should have a 1/4 inch right there where this intersects. I should have a 1/4 inch from there to that intersection right there. If you want, you could even flatten it with your iron just a little bit while you're doing it. But pressing makes all the difference in the world. Now this one goes that way, which means this top one goes the opposite direction. And this bottom one goes the opposite direction. And then I'm going to flip them over and nest them tight. And by doing it that way, what I end up with is seams that are not big and bulky. I'm just going to flip that down so it stays down. If I want to press it right now before I go to the machine, I can. And that's just keeping those down. All right, so I know that this goes in order. This is on top and this is underneath, so I'm going to sew them in this order. A 1/4 inch seam all the way down, and I'll be right back. Now remember, to keep these down, just use the purple thingy. Move that pin and use that little purple thingy to get in there to make sure that your fabric is feeding the way it should. Because these can wiggle around, see, especially this seam right there. So you're just going to make sure that you're pushing it in there so that it goes the way it wants to go. And I may switch to my other foot because my other foot is easier to see what I'm doing. And just use that to line it up. And I'm going to move this out of there and make sure those edges are lined up. If your 1/4 inch seam is accurate, these pieces should really just be the same length when you get to the ends. You shouldn't have extra pieces of fabric everywhere. And push that up against the needle. I always start my half square triangle right butt it up against the needle, and that keeps it from slipping around or stretching at the end right there. All right, so that should do this section now. And I'll go ahead and do a leader ender and get this over to the other side. All right. So now that I have this, I'm going to snip this one off. These two are on this side. And this little thing is over here. And if you notice, this one is up, so I'm going to put both of these up. So now that I know which way I'm going to swirl this one. And so I'm just going to move these apart. And right there, I'm going to take and separate the center. And that's just opening it up so that it goes up, down, up, down. And I'm going to get in there and make that flat. And then I'm going to press it with my seam going down. And by doing that, I push my seams where I want them, and then I come in and I give it a nice hard press. That's going to make those seams flat and less bulky. And now I can lay this here, and it should have 1/4 inch. Now this is off a tiny bit, but I'm not going to cry about it. I think it's just too thin. See, I took a sideways little jump. I could always come back and restitch that, but I don't think I'm going to be too upset about it. It looks pretty good. Match that up. So this one, I'll be back in just a second. The little feet on your sewing machine will sometimes slip on these blocks, so you have to kind of watch that. There we go. And look at that. That one's pretty good too. And so that one I'm just going to wait and see which direction, but I think that one's going to go down. And I'm a little bit crooked, so I'm going to have to see if I have to come in and fix that. When your block is turning crooked, that means your seam is off. And so I'm going to look and see if I have a little spot, and I just veered off to the side just a hair. But it's not looking bad. I'm going to have some minimal trimming right there, so I'm okay. And I'm going to get the next one. And I'm going to sew these together before the entire thing gets put together. So this one is up. That means this one has to go down, because I want these two to end up nesting. And so as you go, it's just important to get those seams the way you want them. And this seam is going up, which means this seam is going to go down. So if I want the seam to go down, I'm going to lay it like this and push it where it needs to go. And these seams look like they're doing a good job. I'm going to flip this one downward. Uh-oh. Did I flip something the wrong way? I did. This is going to go like this. I was wondering why it was looking like a different block. But either way, it's still okay. They're nested. And they're nested, so it's fine. I was like, what's going on here? They were going the wrong way. My hourglass is like this. So it's so easy to get yourself off kilter. And these are going to nest, so I'm okay. So I'm going to sew this side, and then I'm going to come put the entire thing together. So I'm going to come here. And like I said, use your little purple thing and feed it in there. I like a different foot that I have on my sewing machine. I use this one for more for applique because it's flatter, but my other one is better for piecing. You'll figure that out once you've had your machine for a little while, which feet work better for what projects. All right. Look at how fast this block goes. Once you have that little stack of half square triangles, this block goes so fast. All right. All righty. We're going to go here. And this is going to end up together. But first I need to press it. So I need to see which way these are going. All of these are going down. So I'm going to come in here. And these ended up not bulky, so I'm good. And I'm going to go upward on this one. This one feels bulky in the middle, so I'm going to swirl that one. If they feel bulky, I swirl them, but if they don't feel bulky, they're fine. Some fabrics are a little slightly different thickness than others. And I'm just going to open that up a little bit and let it go down. Actually, that one's going to be fine, I think. Like this. There we go. And just fillet that in there and lay it flat. One piece goes one way, one piece goes the other. Using the wool mat to get all of those seams to lay flat is super, super important. I do use a little bit of steam for this. I normally don't, but for these particular blocks, I do use a little bit of steam. And then I just kind of get my block to lay as flat as I can get it. Now I have a tiny bit of excess right here. And one of the things that you can do at this point is if you have a tiny bit of excess, just kind of snip it off if it throws you off. I literally sliver trimmed that. And I'm going to lay this one on top of the other and match every intersection before I sew the whole thing together. There we go. This one's going to get filleted open. And this is just so that I get less bulk at these intersections. See this one? I'm going to lay it open. It looks like a little tiny 4-patch. And pressing these is the hardest thing. Once I have that, I'll pin that intersection. And then I'll do the same thing with this one. Right where that connects. Sometimes you have to remove one stitch in that center part. And by just removing that one stitch right there, I snip it, I pull it with my thing, and then I'm able to bring that over. And when I do that, then that just lays nice and flat. But do not cut into your seam, just that one little piece. And swirl that little corner. Use your steam if you need to. But that gets rid of all that weird bulk in there. And now this is my last seam. I just do all the way across. Controlled colorway is what you're doing. All right, so this is the last bit, and then I'll show you what I've got. when you are sewing these things, slow down over these intersections, pull your pin. Otherwise, they can get unruly on you. They can cause your foot to kind of swerve back and forth. All right, stop right there. Make sure you line that up, that you push that bottom seam towards the needle so that it lines up with these edges without stretching it. And then that should be it. All right, let's see what we have here. All right, so now I've got to get rid of this little leader and ender. And I'm gonna, before I press that big seam open, I'm just going to give it a good press. And like I said, for this particular block, you're gonna wanna press it against your woolly mat. See what we have here. And I like how those points are joined together. You see if I have any seams to swirl, I can go this way. If you notice, do you see how that seam, I'm going this way and that way. That seam's gonna be fine. And that seam's gonna go the opposite direction. So I'm just gonna go opposite directions. It makes like a little tiny 4-patch right there. And so that one is going that way and this one's going this way. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna snip one thread. There you go. And you're gonna let that one go opposite directions like this. One to the left, one to the right. So one goes down and one goes up. Just be careful not to snip through your seam. And by doing that, you're gonna take and you're gonna smash it with your finger and turn it into a little 4-patch, these little intersections right here, and it'll make them really flat. And you can just take the tip of your iron in there, just like that. And then I'm gonna flip this entire thing over where all my seams are going the way I want them to. And I'm going to press like crazy. And so I'm just going to go across the entire thing because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all of those seams to lay as flat as they can, because whenever you're using a hot iron and a little bit of steam, what that does is that it allows that fabric to relax, and then as it dries and it cools, it takes the new shape and it stays that way. Sometimes I pin it onto my woolly mat and let it cool, but that's how I want it. So there's just barely any trimming. I'm gonna measure this and it should measure 8.5, and if it doesn't, I can spritz it with a little water and get it to do what I want it to do. All right, let's see it. Oh, look at that. 8.5 inches across the middle. And I can go this way, and it is just barely 8.5 inches. It's not quite 8.5 inches, so I'm gonna take and I'm gonna just barely pull it with my hand like this. And what that's doing is that making that block the size that it needs to be. Sometimes your pressing can cause you to be off. So if you make those seams good and flat, your block will not need any trimming. And this one's looking pretty good. All right, friends, I'm gonna straighten this edge right here. And that's the only thing I'm gonna have to do to this. So I'm just gonna take and I'm just going to take this right there. And if you see where there's a little tiny bit that peeps out, it looks like that, and that's all the trimming I need on this side. If I look on this side, that looks pretty straight. If I look on this side, that's not bad. If I look on this side, I have a tiny little sliver to take off of this side. And that's it, friends. That's about all the trimming that this block is going to need. And this is block number, let me see, what block are we on? Block number 7. Yep, this is block number 7. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 blocks all together. There you go, friends. That's where we are. We will see you guys next Sunday. I have another block for you guys. I've already added, if you look on my desktop, I've already added it. It's like a double hourglass is what it's called. So if you want to start working on that, you can, and then I will make the drawings for the remaining blocks and I will post them in 2 weeks. All right, friends, that is it. I appreciate you joining me. Don't forget, all of your blocks should finish 8.5 inches. Just keep working. If you're behind, it's fine. Look at this, super cute. If you do them opposite directions, they lay really flat. Look at this right here. You can just swirl the seams. This is good stuff. If you want to press them opposite directions like mine, see they all go crazy directions. This just makes it easier. If you notice, all of my seams are going every which way, and I press them super flat. And it's fine. Look, all these seams are going opposite directions, and then today is the same way. They're going all different directions. All right, everybody, that's it. These are done, and I'm ready for the next one. You guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys next Sunday for another Scraptastic block. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.